Hi, in this video we'll combine everything we have learned before and try to determine what is the final and optimal choice for the investors if they're faced with risky assets only. So we need the return and variance graph. So remember, it's going to be a horizontal U-shaped curve, and we also need the indifference curve or the risk profile we have just learned. Okay, so on this graph we have the typical horizontal U-shaped curve for the return and the variance. So if you remember, this section of the portfolios are going to be strictly dominated by this section of the portfolios, because I can get a higher return for the same level of variance or the risk, right? So these portfolios we're never going to choose them, but we're going to choose among these portfolios. But the question is, which point or which exact portfolio are the investors going to choose? So this is where we bring in the risk profiles. Suppose we have a risk averse individual or investor here. So how is the risk profile or the utility curve going to look like on this graph? So notice we have a different graph here. So in the previous video, we have the monetary value or the returns on the horizontal axis, but in this case, we have it on the vertical axis. So you have to rotate that graph we have seen from the previous video, like 90 degrees, so that the indifference curve no longer looks like that, but instead is going to look like this. Okay, so now suppose we have an indifference curve that is here. Okay, so the investor is going to choose a portfolio that gives him the highest utility possible. So that's going to be just tangent to our portfolio or the possible portfolios here. So this point here is going to be the optimal choice or the optimal portfolio for this individual. Okay, so I might have another individual with a different risk averse profile. So maybe, okay, he is here. So maybe he's here. Okay, around here. Okay, so he will choose somewhere over here. And then if I have third individual, then it's going to be here. Okay, and then he will choose a portfolio over here, which is tangent to the frontier over here. Okay, so as you can see, an individual that's going to pick this portfolio is more risk tolerant than this individual, because it's going to get a higher return but also a higher risk compared to the first individual. Okay, so now you know the final or the optimal choice for an investor depends on not only the risk and return for the assets themselves or the risky assets themselves, but also the risk profiles for the individual themselves. So for the current stage, we are going to have different portfolios as their final choice or the optimal choice. And we'll expand this in the next video.